In order to have your best start to an FPL season, you have to make sure that your team structure that you're building ahead of game week 1 is solid. And in today's video, I'm going to reveal the 3 positions that I think are a non-negotiable from a price point perspective, and also deep dive into how I would build a team going into game week 1. So as always, if you look forward to today's video, make sure to drop a like, aim for 200 on this video. And of course, if you haven't already, make sure you do smash that subscribe button for daily fantasy content. Enough waffling, let's get into today's video. So all FPL managers get a £100 million budget ahead of game week 1. And I think, as I mentioned, there are 3 positions that we just have to make sure we have those price points. And the first one is going to be a £6 million defender. Now, I'm seeing managers building teams with no premiums. Their 5 million is their most expensive, and maybe an early wildcard is part of the plan. But for most managers, I think having a 6 million defender is so important. Now, I'm going to put up the players that are priced at 6 million because, of course, with that being the most expensive price point, it's not like we are having to spend loads of money on these premiums like we have in the past on Trent at 7.5. So just to cover off the 6 millions, we got double Arsenal, Gabriel and Saliba, we got Cucurella at Chelsea, we got 4 at Liverpool, Frimpong, Kirkes, Robertson and Virgil van Dijk, and of course we have 8 Nori and Vardy at Man City. So the top 4 teams really are the ones that have the £6 million players. Now, I really think it's important this season because with the introduction of defensive contributions, I think these players become even more important than ever. These are the teams that have really the best defences and the expected clean sheets. And when I look at the list here, I just think there are some that are really going to benefit from the defensive contributions as well. Virgil van Dijk, hence why he's in the team here, is the one that I think managers should be looking to invest in. I think if you do go into the season with 5 million as your most expensive or 5.5, then you're going to have to really find a way to get up to 6 million if eventually you need some investment. I think it's more of a case of inevitability when you do want a piece of these defences. Yes, at Arsenal, you could go for a Lewis Skelly if you want to and maybe take some rotation risk. You could go to Colwell if you want to, but again, I don't really think that's the route to go. I think if you want a piece of these defences, and you inevitably will, get yourself the most expensive one, knowing that after a few game weeks, if they are not hitting the ground running, you can easily pivot towards the defence that really is the one to own. And I just think avoiding the 6 million defensive bracket is a huge risk in these opening game weeks, because while some managers are going for centre-backs and other managers deem that a little bit boring, what if Frimpong or Kirkes suddenly do become Robertson and Trent of years ago and they are absolutely essential? You're having to either force a wildcard early doors, or you're of course having to look to sell down players to invest in defenders. And historically speaking, it's not really where you want to be spending your transfers in the opening game weeks. You really want to be spending them in these attacking areas where you can get the most value from your transfer. So 6 million defender for me is key for your teams. And I think Virgil van Dijk is rightly so the best pick from an attacking perspective, fixtures perspective, and also clean sheet perspective. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section, but for me the first one on this is Van Dijk at 6 million. Next up, we have got the midfielders, and again, the one price point that I believe managers must have an investment in is going to be in the 8.5 million bracket. If you want to go to 9, you can if you have the funds available, but I do think 8.5 is where you want to be. Now, really, this is more important than the defenders in my perspective. A lot of managers are going for Mo Salah at 14.5, Palmer at 10.5, and then coming down to 7 million. I think there's a huge gap in managers' teams out there. And if you think that you can avoid this 8.5 million bracket, then I'm here to tell you that you can't. Let me put up the list of players once again, similar to defenders, that we have in the game. And we have got the most expensive at Bruno Fernandes at 9, of course, when I get rid of the likes of Palmer and Salah, all the way down to someone like a Cody Gakpo at 7.5 million. And in between that, we got Wirtz, Marmoush, Odegaard, Foden, Mbeumo, Cunha. All players that I'm anticipating to, at some point in these opening game weeks, absolutely be on your watch list. Similar to what I mentioned about the defenders, if your pricing structure right now is to have Mo Salah, Palmer, and then a 6.5 like a Kudus, how are you getting yourself into this price bracket if you haven't got an investment already? And the big thing for me is there are players in here that we absolutely have to consider for game week 1. I don't think we're necessarily having to take punts on players just to hold the price point. For example, take the list of players here. If you just want a safe and steady pick that you know is going to play guaranteed minutes, defensive contributions, and also on penalties, then Bruno Fernandes is your man. Put him in at 9 million, knowing that you've got the most expensive in this department. And then you can downgrade to any of the players below who really do hit the ground running, because that's why I've put Florian Wirtz on this list. What I've seen in the Bundesliga, what I've seen in pre-season so far, personally, I just see no way this guy isn't going to be a huge success at Liverpool. So again, making sure that you have a placeholder at this price point is just so key, because somebody like a Marmoush or a Wirtz are going to become essential in these opening weeks. I'm almost certain about it. And the beauty of it, if I'm wrong, and it is very much a case of having Salah, Palmer, and then a 6.5, well, you've got the price point here to downgrade and then spend the 2 million elsewhere in your squad. So it could be Wirtz, it could be Marmoush, it could be Bruno Fernandes if you really just want to not look at the fixtures and just buy him for the player that he is. But regardless of what you are doing, alongside a 6 million defender of Virgil van Dijk, I also believe an 8.5, 9 million midfielder is absolutely essential to when you are building your teams, because somebody in this list is inevitably going to go off in these opening weeks, and you don't want to be scrambling around trying to fit them in your teams. So the third non-negotiable price point for me in any Game Week 1 draft is going to be a premium forward outside of Erling Haaland, of course. And I've put in here Ollie Watkins at 9 million, because I do believe this is roughly where I would be going with my quote-unquote premium forward. And again, let's get up these premium forwards on the screen for you here right now. We got 14 million Erling Haaland, all the way down to Jarrod Bowen at 8 million. I've gotten rid of the 7.5s because that is really where managers are trying to build the core of their forwards. I'm seeing a lot of drafts out there with Dominic Solanke, João Pedro, both at 7.5, and then someone like a Beto alongside that at 5.5 million, which is absolutely fine because, of course, you've got a bit more money maybe to spend in your midfielders, which historically have been the place to put all of your budget. That is natural. But I think this season is different. I think forwards are back on the menu. We saw a glimpse of it last season with Chris Wood, with Watkins, with Haaland. And I think we're getting that even more this year. We got Haaland at 14 million. Realistically, if you're going for Mo Salah, you're not going for Haaland. And based on the ownerships right now, it looks like managers are favouring a Mo Salah draft as opposed to a Haaland draft. So we're going to forget about Haaland right now because you really do have to make huge sacrifices in your draft if you want to accommodate him. Of course, we've got Isak at 10.5. At the time of recording, that is a void because we don't know exactly where he's going to end up. He's either going to be in a team that he doesn't want to be at Newcastle, or he's going to be in one of the best teams in the world at Liverpool, and then that changes things up completely. So again, Isak, very difficult to think about right now. But around that, Gyökeres at 9 million. Yes, difficult fixtures, but Leeds at home in Game Week 2 is one that managers are pinpointing. Watkins at 9 million, for me, one of the most overlooked players in the game. Ekitike at 8.5. If they don't land Alexander Isak, he could be their starting forward. And of course, Jarrod Bowen at 8 million. And we still have certain players that could come into the mix, like a Sesko, if they deem him 8.5 or 9 million in the game. I doubt it, though. So, for me, having someone like Watkins at 9 million is key. I just think the pool of players that we have available to us, if you're going into Game Week 1 with 7.5 million as your most expensive forward, I think you're asking for problems in the opening weeks. Somebody in this list is going to be essential. There's no doubt about it. And I think you need a price, similar to what I've discussed previously, I sound like a broken record here, that you are able to pivot from. And for me, Ollie Watkins is that guy. At 9 million, we have got a proven FPL player in a proven team with great fixtures. Ollie Watkins for the opening weeks, and then if somebody like a Gyökeres or a Ekitike or a Bowen just become essential, then you can easily pivot away from Watkins to those players. And also, yes, he is 1.5 million more expensive in Alexander Isak, but if Isak suddenly gets this move sorted, how are you getting up from a 7.5 million to Alexander Isak? It's difficult enough from Watkins, let alone that price point. So make sure you have someone in your forward line that is more expensive than 7.5 million. I think that is really, really important. So here's an example of how going into Game Week 1, I am currently looking to structure my team. And again, I'm one of those managers that historically has never really been about all in investing in a certain position. As I discussed, I think it's really important, if you can, to try and spread the funds in each position, ensure that you have somebody at each price point that allows you to either go sideways to the best option at that price, or allow you to downgrade to a cheaper option once we have a bit more information in the opening game weeks. Because even though we know information on certain players, things change. Look at Liverpool with the new signings, Man City with new signings. We know the players, but we don't know exactly what we're going to get from them in the opening game weeks. So just to run through how I've structured this team here, and again, I didn't want to absolutely pinpoint certain players right now in positions because I think there are loads of options available. So in goal, I've gone for 5 million and 4 million. However, that's 9 million invested. So it doesn't really matter here. 9 million invested in goalkeepers. So you could do 4.5 and 4.5. You could do 5 and 4. I don't think it's worth going 5.5 and 4. I don't think there is enough value in the 5.5 million goalkeepers to go there. So whatever you do, I think 9 million invested in your goalkeepers is perfectly fine, whether it be 5 and 4 or 4.5 and 4.5. In terms of the defenders, as I discussed, 6 million for me is a non-negotiable. And I also think a 5.5 is really solid in your teams. Now, the reason being is there are two names at the top of my head. Murillo at Nottingham Forest, because from a defensive contributions perspective and clean sheets, he is an absolute monster. And the other one is going to be Daniel Munoz at Crystal Palace. Very different, but somebody that has so much attacking potential in a very good Crystal Palace team. I think there are going to be some good 5.5s this year. And if your next most expensive is 5, very difficult for you to pivot up to those 5.5 millions as we progress through the season. So 5.5 for me if you can get there, because I think the 5s aren't really standing out. Then we can have two 4.5 millions. I think there are loads of great 4.5 million centre backs that are great for defensive contributions. And then at 4 million, I've got somebody in my head like an Esteve at Burnley. I don't think we need another 4.5 there. I think we can have a 4 million defender and keep that budget. Now, moving into the midfielders, again, the non-negotiable 8.5 with Florian Wirtz. Then we got the combination of Mo Salah and Palmer. I'm just doing that because right now that is where managers are going. So I want to show you how you could build around these key players. And of course, nobody else is priced at their price points. Next up, we've got a 7 million. Now, again, you could slightly change this. This could be a 6.5 if you then want to upgrade the 5 million midfielder to 5.5. That probably will be quite a common combination. So, for example, here you could do Rodgers at 7 million and you could do Xhaka at 5. But if you wanted to change it, you could do Kudus at 6.5 and Elliot Anderson at 5.5. But regardless, I think it's quite important for that to be 7 if you can get there, because I think Rodgers is great. If not, 6.5 and a 5.5, because I think there are good players in each price bracket. And finally, the forwards. Even though I've gone for 9 million with the forward, I think the next one you have to go for is 7.5. I think there are really good options there. João Pedro, Solanke, Chris Wood. Somebody will emerge at that price point. So going 9 and then straight down to a 6 is not the way to go. 7.5 regardless is essential. I probably should have put that in the essential list, to be honest with you. And then we got a 4.5 million. Now, that's the part of this structure that managers are going to hate. I totally get it. A 5 million midfielder, a 4.5 million forward, not ideal at all. And if you want to change it, then of course we got to sacrifice some positions, maybe the 5.5 million defender. But I feel like on a basis right now, with the structure that we have here, you could play a 4 at the back with defensive contributions this year and not really worry about it. You got your 3 key men, your 4th at that 7 million price bracket, and then it's a case of really playing 2 up top and playing 4 at the back or 5 in midfield. So let me know your thoughts on this. I'm going to show you an example of a team now just to give you some faces to these prices. So here's an example of a game week 1 team based on the structure that we discussed. And again, there are pros, there are cons. You're never going to build the perfect team. And of course, this is without a bench boost in game week 1. I should have said that right at the start. Bench boost teams are a very different agenda. I'll cover that off in a future video. So just to give you an example here, Sanchez at 5 million, a brilliant option for us. Great fixtures. I think a good Chelsea team. So that's why I'm saying a 5 million goalkeeper, I think is enough. I don't think you have to go to 5.5. 4 million, unfortunately, there's no 4 million defender right now to come across. 5.5 in Murillo, but again, that could be Munoz. Wan-Bissaka and Konsa, both good options with good fixtures. And Esteve at 4 million. Vert, Salah, Palmer, and then as I discussed, Rodgers and Xhaka at 5 million. Of course, with the 5 million pick, now this is going to be a really difficult position. If someone like a Xhaka does emerge as a guaranteed minutes pick, which I think he will, there's no reason why Sunderland are going to sign him from Bayern Leverkusen and then chuck him on the bench. So I am looking at Xhaka right now. With the fixtures that Sunderland have, I'll put them up on screen here. He could be the catalyst to enable this team. And the reason being is we've seen that he has some sort of goal scoring threat in both Bayer Leverkusen and Arsenal. We know that he's a very industrious player, very good in recoveries normally in any team that he does play in. That's exactly what I'm picturing. So for me, Xhaka at 5 million is opening the door for us to go for something like this, because if you have to play 5 in midfield, if you can get Xhaka and pick up some defensive contributions in a team that really he's going to have to do it for, then I think that is actually a great player to have. Of course, if not, downgrading Rodgers, as I discussed, to a Kudus at 6.5, and then upgrading Xhaka to someone like an Elliot Anderson at Forest is absolutely fine. Slight tweaks, but basically the same is being invested in those two positions. And then finally up front, we've talked about Watkins. I think 9 million is great. João Pedro is currently the standout for me at 7.5, mainly because Dominic Solanke is still carrying an injury. And Chris Wood, playing 2 up top in their most recent friendly with Igor, I'm concerned that this is a player that's all about service, and maybe he's losing the service that he once had from Elanga and Hudson-Odoi. He still has Gibbs-White, but coming from central zones, I'm a little bit concerned about Chris Wood's general service. And then, of course, right now, if we get a 4.5 million that emerges, then the game will be broken and we will be able to play this. But that will be, and I can read your minds right now, the huge problem. Managers will be looking at this and saying, oh, it's a 4.5 million forward. I got no chance to be able to play 3 up top. And I totally understand that. But we got to make sacrifices somewhere. And I always want to have some investment in the midfield. So that's how the team's going to look for game week 1 right now, based on that team structure. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. But I just think this offers you a potential to have all of the expensive players in each position, which allows you to downgrade as we progress through the game weeks if we've made a mistake with somebody. Yes, guys, okay, so that's going to wrap up today's video, looking at the game week 1 team structure and how best to build your teams. Hopefully it's provided some value, but of course, let me know in the comment section if you agree, disagree with the price points that I have put in these teams. And as always, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to drop a like and of course hit that subscribe button for daily fantasy content. And I'll see you in the next one. Have a great day. Take care. Cheers.